Hey guys, welcome back. So with continuing our talks on Blood Hunt, for this one we're getting into Midnight Suns and the reassembling of this team, with them all coming together to stop Blade by any means necessary. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so going into the Midnight Suns Blood Hunt tie-in, this takes us back to the beginning for a little bit, before we get into the big reveal of what's going on with Blade, as well as why he hasn't exactly been himself lately. And this will all make more sense really soon, because we're still approaching the point where all the pieces come together. But one of the first things we see is Blade walking towards a burning church, as we're given the narration that reads, "A nightmare. That's what this is. Cold. Cold and burning at the same time. Where am I? Nowhere. I'm dreaming. None of this is real. None of this is real." Which right there is just a bit of foreshadowing as far as what's really going on with Blade. Because after that we head over to a diner, where now at this point things haven't popped off just yet. So there's really no suspicion of Blade acting outside of the norm, and no one suspecting that anything has changed with him. And we see an example of how dangerous that is here, because this group of mercenaries who Blade has trained and taught how to kill vampires, they received a call from Blade saying that it's important and that they all need to meet up, every last one of them. So of course, when Blade calls, they all show up. And when they do, one of these guys, he's sitting here with Blade, like, okay, well, what's the problem? You said it was important. And so when Blade stands up, dude's like, what's wrong? Is something here? Only to hear Blade respond, something is here, just before he goes hibachi on the whole team. And it's one of those things where these guys, yes, they're trained to take down vampires, but against someone with the speed and skill of Blade, who lacks your conventional vampire weaknesses, it's not even close. And that isn't even considering the element of surprise here, because these dudes came into this with their guard down because they trust Blade wholeheartedly, which kind of makes it sad in a way, because when it's over, Blade sheds a tear, almost as if the real him is in there watching this whole thing, like it's all just a bad dream. And following this, we head down to Arizona, where we find Danny Ketch, who's just shooting a few beer bottles, clearing his head, moments before he's approached by Tulip, Blade's ex. And prior to this, they really don't know each other, so Danny's really skeptical about her popping up and knowing his name, so she tells him they have mutuals, and she's come here to talk about Blade. So he hears her out, but none of this stuff that she's talking about sounds anything like Blade. So again, Danny, he's skeptical. So next she goes on to let him know how recently a lot of things have changed with Blade, because the Blade Danny knew, he was capable of a lot of things. But since then, Blade spent time with Dracula, he's faced the Adana, and now Blade is capable of more. But even still, Tulip, she doesn't know exactly what's the deal with Blade, and she would like to just walk up to him and ask him, but it's not that simple. And that's why she's come here to get help from the Ghost Rider. So right away, Danny's just like, well, how do you think this works? You think Ghost Rider just wraps a chain around him, stares into his eyes and makes him tell the truth? Like, who do you think I am, Wonder Woman? But no, Danny lets Tulip know that he still doesn't trust her. So both him and the Rider need to see what she has to hide before they go any further. And the thing about Tulip, she's smart, so she knew where this was going. So for a moment here, she takes another swig and she's like, I figured. Go ahead. So Danny changes into the Rider, and he gives Tulip her very first penance stare. And it's so intense that it just causes Tulip to pass out. Because going into this, she thought the penance stare was just going to reveal all her secrets. She didn't know it was going to make her feel all the pain she's caused, all at once. So as you can imagine, for her, that was a nice surprise. But when she wakes up, she's met by Johnny Blaze, where in his case, as it stands right now, he's no longer a Ghost Rider. And I mean, that's kind of the case, because recently in Ghost Rider Final Vengeance, his power passed on to the Hood, and later on we found out he still had a portion of the Spirit of Vengeance inside of him that allowed him to shoot hellfire from a shotgun. But really, I think that's one of those things where Johnny's being untethered from Zarathos and Mephisto, so at some point he'll have the Spirit of Vengeance in a way that's closer to its original form, though that's all speculation. Who knows where that's really going. But nonetheless, when Johnny gets here, he doesn't need a penance stare to get a read on Tulip, so he just tells her she's run-of-the-mill traumatized and try to hide it with swag. And she didn't like that. But with Johnny being caught up on the situation with Blade, he lets Tulip know that he'll help her find him, but he also asks if it comes to the point where Blade wants a fight, will she be good for it? So she tells him Blade made her promise a long time ago. If he were to ever go too far, if the dark were to take a hold of him, then she'd have to promise to take him down. And right here, Tulip tells Johnny that she's good at keeping her promises. But following this, right outside, we see Danny Ketch losing his lunch. Cause sometimes when the Ghost Rider does the penance there, Danny remembers things about the recipient. He feels what they've caused, he gets a glimpse into their lives, and through the course of that, he probably got a first-person view of her and Blade doing the nasty. Oh man, poor Danny. And I mean, that's also speculation. Oh man, first person, that's diabolical. But among these memories, he also learns about what happened to Tulip's father. But they don't get into the details, which creates an awkward moment of silence. So Tulip brings back up Blade, and she tells Danny that Johnny's in. So she needs to know if he is too, now that Danny knows what he needs to know about her. So following this, Danny takes Tulip to his bunker, and he lets her know that him and Johnny were working on something before she dropped in. So if she helps them, they'll help her. And when he opens it up, there are all kind of weapons everywhere. Which for Tulip, this pretty much has her like a kid in a candy store, cause she's an arms dealer who specializes in supernatural weapons, many of which that were exotic firearms. So for that reason, we know she's well versed with using a range of different types of artillery. So Danny tells her to take her pick. She can go quiet or she can go loud. So of course she chooses to go towards the loud end. And as it turns out, Danny and Johnny wanted Tulip to help with their plans to ambush a convoy of vampire mercenaries, who for one, Johnny just wanted to see if Tulip was up to the task. So it's almost like a test run they're taking her on here. But also Danny and Johnny were already out here because they were after these mercs anyway. Because as it turns out, they work for a company who believes that they can make a profit off of capturing creatures from the Dark Force dimension, which isn't something that they could just let fly, blood hunt or not. But as soon as Johnny tells her this, the creature that's being transported, it starts to inch its way out of containment and grab Tulip. And from the looks of this thing, it very much looks like the many-eyed Quogoth character that was created by Shumagora. But they don't deal with this thing for too long, because just after Johnny gets Tulip free, Danny shows up coming in hot, literally, blazing right past Johnny and Tulip, racing head on into this container and destroying this thing. So now they don't have to worry about it slipping into the wrong hands. And following this, next we head over to Iraq, where we find Victoria Montesi, who's made her way here to help the locals, with one of them who's possessed and located in a nearby cave. But also when it comes to Victoria Montesi, she's also referred to as the daughter of Chthon. And that just goes back into the history of her human father, Vittorio Montesi, whose bloodline had a strong resistance to corruption from the Darkhold. But since he couldn't have any children and continue his bloodline, he eventually gave in and made a deal with Chthon that would allow him to bring forth a daughter. But instead, Chthon used this opportunity to bring forth his own daughter, who eventually Chthon wanted to use as a doorway to get him back into this dimension. But they're coming here and dealing with this guy, this possessed poor man, who is just being tormented this whole time. This demon that's in him lets her know that she doesn't have a chance going up against him, and mainly because of what we saw when Blade released the Adana in the recent Blade series. In addition to the rise of vampires, these things have set the stage around the world for demons and other creatures to just do whatever they want. But at the same time, in this conversation, this demon is mocking her, or better yet taunting her, and it's toying with its host as well at the same time by allowing this poor guy who's suffering to have moments of consciousness while he's being clawed at from the inside. And at the end of the day, this demon just doesn't believe that Victoria has enough magic to combat him on any level, because really he just looks down on her, like she's a corrupted priest, given her family's history, or just a hollow shell of Chthon's true power. So what she ends up doing here is throwing this demon a curveball, because she tells him she's no longer playing by the rules anymore. She's no longer playing fair, because since she was made by evil, she's going to use it to her advantage, where in this case, she's using it for reinforcements. And with saying this, Victoria brings forth Lilith to handle this demon, where in this case, between the two of them, he is severely outmatched. And that pretty much wraps up everything for him. And just after this, we continue to follow Victoria, because now really this is like our introduction to the reassembling of the Midnight Suns. Because just after this, Victoria is approached by Johnny Blaze, who's come here with the news that he received from Tulip. But when he gets here, Victoria already knows what he's going to ask her, because she foresaw his arrival before he even got there. So she tells him the question he's about to ask is, will I help you kill Blade? And Johnny's just like, I was gonna say confront. And she tells him that he didn't have to, because if Blade is what it seems he has become, then the Midnight Suns will kill him. Which right here just brings the pieces of this team together before they go forward and truly discover how serious this really is. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.